Hi, everyone. Let's be realistic. Only my mom calls me Dr. Moien. But I'm here today to talk about the deep tech investment thesis. I'm a principal with GreenSky Ventures, and I lead the deep tech practice. Let me take you to 1950s when William Shockley, who co-invented transistors and was a future Nobel Prize winner, started a company in California. His management style wasn't great, so a bunch of his engineers left him to start a new company. They later became famous as the Traders 8. These 8 engineers started Fairchild Semiconductor. Fairchild became Intel, and Intel became Silicon Valley. What people miss in this story most of the time is that to fund Fairchild, it wasn't an easy task. Fairchild didn't have assets, didn't have collaterals, didn't have a stable cash flow, so banks wouldn't fund Fairchild. Corporations also didn't fund Fairchild because they wanted a tight grip over the company. They wanted to be able to manage what is happening. Again, it was a leap in science. They were working on transistors. It was not a proven technology. So Arthur Rock, a banker from East Coast, convinced Chairman Fairchild to invest in a team of scientists with unproven technology, unproven market, and technical risk. That was the beginning of transistors. That was the beginning of compute, but it was also the beginning of venture capital. That's how venture capital started, with that financing. Somebody came in, invested in a technology that was unproven, only backing the scientists with no immediate expectation for return. That was the beginning of venture capital. But somewhere along the way, software started eating the world. Investors became very excited about software. Amazon, Netflix, Google, Apple, they got funding. And VCs started to focus more and more on software and kind of forget about deep tech. And the story that I'm going to tell today about deep tech investment is not something new. It's been around. It's how venture capital started. We're just going back to our roots as VCs. So what is deep tech? And it's not a specific vertical. It's actually a velocity shift. You start with a technology, a lot of unknowns. The velocity changes. You start launching the product, and it picks up. The difference between other types of technology and deep tech is that it takes longer to get to launch, but once the launch happens, it actually gets to velocity speed. So to better understand deep tech, let's look at this 4 quadrants that I have here. On one axis, I have technology risk. On the other one, I have market risk. I have the orange box, which is type 2 deep tech. That's the frontier deep tech. Very high market risk, very high technology risk. You don't know whether the technology would work or not. You don't know if the technology works, whether the market wants it or not. To give you an example, imagine cultivated meat. We do a lot of investment in R&D to create a burger that is made out of meat cells. The burger comes about, the regulatory is passed. We don't know whether the market would actually want it or not. So high technology risk, high market risk. But if it works and it picks up, it's going to be different. On the left side of the top quadrants, we have lower market risk and higher risk of technology. Essentially, you're saying that if you can solve this problem, people would pay for it. You want to solve fusion energy, people would pay for it. You want to solve cancer, doctors, physicians, healthcare system would pay for it. If you solve any of the problems in that right side, top right side, then people would pay for it. On the bottom coordinates, we have lower technology risk. This could be software, something that the technology does not require a lot of R&D. You have pioneers like Uber, Airbnb, where the technology wasn't that difficult, but market adoption was still a question. And then we have the arbitrage side, where you have kind of low risk on technology, low risk on adoption. You know that the market is going to adopt it, and you can build a solution for it. How is value created in deep tech is also kind of another data point for us to better understand how deep tech is different from other types of technologies. When you look at the traditional, let's say, software technology, they work towards getting to product market fit. They want to get to product market fit very quickly. They scramble around. If they get to product market fit, they pick up and the market explodes. If they don't, they fail. In case of deep tech, there is a front-loaded R&D part where things are quiet, nothing is happening, you're not getting a lot of customer feedback, iterations are happening for you to better improve your technology. You fix your technology, you do a lot of R&D, a lot of upfront work, no revenue is being generated. It's like growing a bamboo tree. You water it, it takes time, nothing happens, all of a sudden it starts growing. But once it grows, once it hits that inflection point, it grows constantly and continuously. It doesn't require as much R&D anymore. Your product is ready. All the energy that you put in to develop that technology has turned now into defensible intellectual property, which then also protects your technology and your growth moving forward, and the growth becomes more sustainable. So I want to go through a couple of myths that investors talk about all the time when it comes to deep tech. The first very important one is that deep tech is a money pit. So it consumes a lot of money, you pour a lot of investments into it, but it doesn't go anywhere, which is absolutely wrong. So the data that I'm showing from BDC shows that for software businesses, obviously at the beginning of their life cycle, you don't pour as much money into the investment. They're growing, the technology is not that difficult to build. Now with the advent of AI, even the technology development cycle has become shorter, it has become more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't require as much money. But as these software businesses start growing, you obviously pour more money into it to make sure that it grows. You have a higher, maybe cost of customer acquisition, you may be doing a lot of marketing to be able to grow your business. So it's essentially backloaded a lot of investment. And on the deep tech side, it's true. Initially, you invest more money into it, more front-loaded investment, because you need to do more R&D, because you need to build the technology and you need to de-risk technology. But once that technology is de-risked, specifically in underserved markets, like in energy, in manufacturing, in construction space, what happens is that you have the IP, you have the product, people understand the pain, people understand the need, then it picks up, doesn't require as much investment. You don't need to just go out and try to market it to everyone. People get it, and you start selling. And that's why at the end of the life cycle of a deep tech company, the investment requirement is lower. So this is not true that deep tech is a money pit. Deep tech doesn't perform is another myth. People think that investing in hardware technology, space vertical, biotechnology is not going to return back their money. So the data that I'm showing from McKinsey from 2024, which studied North American and European VCs, show that on average, the internal rate of return, which is one of the metrics that VCs use to evaluate their performance, for deep tech funds is around 17%. This is while for the generalist software investment, it's around 10%. So data clearly shows that deep tech funds are outperforming the software ones. Also, Hello Tomorrow, an organization in France that focuses on deep tech startups, evaluate over 800 deep tech startups. The result that they realized was that the startups that they were studying generated more than 23% in IRR. So again, the return is there, it happens, it's consistent because of various reasons which we will discuss. The third myth is that deep tech has a higher failure rate. So people think because it's deep tech, because it's hardware, because it's hard, because it's uninvestable, it's gonna also fail faster than software. The reality is that the graduation rate from, let's say, pre-seed to the later stage is the same. 2.5% of the startups from the inception to latest stage, that's the graduation rate. But the difference is that because of the archetype of deep tech startups, their failure rate at the beginning of their life cycle is higher. You're spending a lot of money on R&D, you're spending a lot of money on technology. As a result, that longer R&D life cycle initially leads to a higher failure rate. But again, once you build the technology, once you have that defensible IP, the deep tech startups' failure drops and they grow more consistently. So why is that? Why deep tech startups outperform? First of all, deep tech startups have lower competition. So when you think about a startup that is operating in the space vertical, you have multiple engineers, scientists with PhDs, years of research and work experience that are starting a business. This is not somebody coming out of a school thinking that I'm going to start a satellite company and I'm going to launch that satellite and I'm going to make a ton of money. It's a scientist and engineer who's worked years and years, maybe in university for many years, and they have now spun out their technology and they have realized there was a problem, they have created a satellite, and it's very difficult to compete with them. You can't just come out of college and be like, oh, I have a bachelor's in construction, or I have a bachelor's in civil engineering and I'm going to create a product for the construction industry. You need many years of industry experience and knowledge to be able to actually build a product. So there is low competition, and that's great. Second is founder quality. Deep tech startup founders are PhDs, scientists, medical doctors, engineers, experts and professionals who worked in their industry for many, many years. First of all, lots of experience, lots of exposure to different industries, but then also the type of people that I just mentioned, they have the discipline that is required to be a good founder. They have become a scientist. They have put in years of work to become a scientist or engineer. They are the discipline type. So the founder quality is also different when it comes to deep tech startups. The markets that deep techs touch are usually massive, but they're underserved. Think of mining, think of oil and gas, think of chemical industry. These are massive markets, but they get less love from technology developers. So once there's a technology, once there's a solution for the mining industry, for the oil and gas industry, for the construction industry, the adoption also picks up because the market understands the pain, market understands the problem, and nobody introduces a new technology. And also these markets are very large, making it easier for these companies to grow. The fourth reason is IP advantage. The essence of a deep tech company is intellectual property. It could be in the form of a patent, it could be in form of data, it could be know-how. It's IP that differentiates a deep tech company than any other company. And IP becomes the moat becomes the money-making machine for the deep tech company. And then lastly, it's the unique life cycle of a deep tech startup. The deep tech companies that succeed and perform is not just because of the IP, large market, low competition. It's also the life cycle and how they work. They start with a long-winded process of R&D, then there's an inflection point, and then there's sustainable growth. And that unique life cycle helped them to grow and outperform once they surpass that process of the R&D phase. So how should VCs evolve? Like we, again, started as investors, invested in deep tech companies, semiconductor, 70, 80 years ago. Our focus shifted to software. We've been investing in software for a couple of decades now. Now we are thinking that, okay, outsized returns, maybe we have to go back to deep tech, big global problems, maybe software cannot answer all of our questions, and we have to invest in deep tech. How do we do that? Like we know how to scale companies as VCs, but what else do we need to do? So investors, first of all, need to make sure that they have a clear thesis. They're not investing on buzzwords. You're not just talking about AI here, AI there. We know what is the problem that we're creating a thesis around, what could be the potential solutions, and we go after those solutions. Second is that if you want to invest in a deep tech company and work with a deep tech founder, you have to have deeper knowledge of their vertical. It would be very challenging for somebody with zero background to go and talk to a company that is building a software for genomics space. You need to either understand the genomics space or have the right network around you to help you better understand that space. So at GreenSky, for example, we have a bunch of people with different backgrounds, technical, legal, financial, and under technology verticals across different industries. But we also have a massive network of limited partners, investors, ecosystem partners that we closely work with when it comes to evaluating a deep tech company. So we try to do everything to understand the company before making an investment. That also helps us post-investment to support the company grow. And then lastly is that all ecosystem partners, all the stakeholders have to work together to make sure a deep tech company succeeds. Canada is amazing at creating basic science and fundamental knowledge. We need to do a better job working with government entities, working with universities, working with investors to be able to commercialize that science and take it to the next level and be able to create outsized returns for everyone. And then lastly, you have to do proper due diligence. The time to not do due diligence is over. The time to invest on hype is over. Deep tech requires deep due diligence. You need to understand what you're investing in to be able to underwrite the risk, to be able to create the right portfolio. Thank you, everyone. I'm Moien Giashi, principal with GreenSky Ventures. I hope you enjoyed it.